what first got you interested in Area 51 and all the theories about aliens and hidden technology?
Ooh, I feel like I've kind of always been interested in it. If I think back, I was a really nerdy child and used to watch the History Channel, but like the OG History Channel,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
actual documentaries about actual historical events.
Mm,
And then when I was in like middle school, they shifted their programming back to like ancient aliens
mhm,
and like conspiracy theories and quote unquote quote historical reenactments.
mhm,
And so I think it was just kind of a pipeline. I went from like historical dramas to alien conspiracy theories, and I was like,
mhm.
this is fun. So yeah, I think the History Channel
Yeah.
is what got me into it.
Um, for those of us that are new to the whole alien, ancient alien, Area 51 conspiracy, how would you describe what Area 51 actually is and why it's surrounded by so much secrecy and speculation?
Okay, I haven't done like a deep dive in Area 51 specifically.
Mhm.
Um, but from my understanding, from what I've seen on the History Channel, Area 51 is a government site that actually is a government site. They like confirmed that. And I think they declassified a bunch of documents from it
Mhm.
back in like the 2010s.
Mhm.
So it is a real place that they do real things at. But it's an Air Force base, and so they develop like weird plane technology and like stealth tech stuff.
Mhm.
And so the theory about it is that, since like the 70s on, it has been a place where they have alien like materials, maybe actual aliens themselves, who are like teaching us how to build their advanced technology.
Mhm.
And or like the UFO sightings, if they find wreckage of UFOs, even if we haven't like made contact with aliens, they're taking that stuff to Area 51 and like reverse engineering it to try to understand the
Mhm.
technology. But none of that is in the declassified documents, so we can't know if they're actually doing that stuff.
Yeah, it's all just like speculation. But I'm actually gonna go through the documents that they have, and I'm gonna see what I can pull through.
I'm excited to see what you learn.
Yeah, no, I'm actually really excited too because I've never read them. I'm doing the same thing with the Epstein files.
Ooh.
But okay, so Bob, I want to say Lazar's story. He claimed to have worked on reverse engineering alien spacecrafts near Area 51. What parts of his story, if you're familiar with it at all personally, do you believe, or do you think that it's too specific to dismiss?
I feel like I don't I don't like necessarily like I'm not an expert on Area 51.
Mm-hmm.
But I've heard his name and I feel like there have been a couple other people, like
Mm-hmm.
maybe two or three, who claim to have worked at Area 51 and then like blow the whistle on it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as far as I know, like one, they're putting themselves at risk. So like
Mm-hmm.
that on its own is compelling. You've got someone who like not just signed an NDA, but like can be persecuted by the government,
Yeah,
prosecuted by the
yeah,
government for like sharing state secrets.
yeah.
So that on its own is like, okay, this person has to be highly motivated to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't necessarily believe all the specifics of it. And in his case, I think he was the one who like lied about his like degrees and things.
I'm
Like
pretty sure, yeah.
people tried to look up like the timeline of like, okay, you have a PhD in this, but you were working like in a different office in a different state when you were
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be earning that PhD. So how do you? And so
Mm-hmm.
like for me, I feel like for conspiracy theories, I never. It's not fun to just be like, no, that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
It's more fun to be like, okay, what's going on here? Is this person crazy? Is this
Mm-hmm.
person like are they getting fame and money from it? Do they actually believe it?
Mm-hmm.
Do they believe parts of it and then that's getting miscommunicated? Like,
Yeah.
so I believe he worked there. I believe he might believe what he's reporting. I don't necessarily believe that everything he's saying is true or
Yeah.
actually happened.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that like maybe these people could be like a government ploy because it's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, like the government wants to feed into this so that we don't look at other areas. So that could always be a possibility too.
Mm-hmm.
But just moving into ancient aliens connection, a lot of people believe that aliens have been visiting the Earth for thousands of years, even influencing ancient civilizations like the Egyptians and the Mayans with the pyramids and the Mayan structures. Do you think that there's any truth behind those ancient astronaut theories?
Okay, so my personal assumption about aliens
Mm-hmm.
is like the Fermi paradox, which
Okay.
is the universe is so infinitely vast,
Mm-hmm.
and like intelligent life is not particularly special.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're not like the only ones, right?
Yeah.
That's like what probability tells us. Which also means either the universe is so vast that like we're just never going to come into contact with them because it's too big,
Mm-hmm.
and there's just too much space to be able to traverse, or the probability that we should have come across them by now is like too large to ignore, which
Mm-hmm.
means either they are avoiding us,
Mm-hmm.
or something else is going on there.
Yeah.
So they probably exist somewhere
Mm-hmm.
in the infinite universe. Why haven't we come in contact with them in a place where like it's just known that aliens exist?
Mm-hmm.
That's like what's up for grabs. So I have said I really enjoy watching Ancient Aliens.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's entertaining to like see all the theories and when they go through the historical documents and they're like, this ancient Mayan pyramid couldn't have been built with this technology.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that's really fun. And some of the stuff, like, it does make you think, like, how did they do that? Why
Yeah.
is there this, like, uh, hieroglyphic of a robot with wings?
Mm-hmm.
What's up with that? How did we get this, like, material or metal that had to be, like, mined from deep in the earth? And so, like, all of that stuff is really interesting. I think a lot of the time it doesn't give ancient people enough credit.
Yeah.
Like people did crazy things with hammers and nails.
Mm-hmm.
And they had cranes. They had like advanced technologies, just not what
Yeah.
we consider to be advanced technology because we have to
Yeah.
be the most advanced, right?
Yeah.
So I want to give ancient people credit. Also, the way that we talk about science is pretty young. Like
Mm-hmm.
they didn't have a scientific paradigm. So if some dude in a spaceship in a space shuttle dropped into the ancient Mayan temple, they're not going, oh my god, an advanced technology, an alien species. They don't have an idea of
Yeah.
species. They don't
Mm-hmm.
have like a classification for these things. They would think religiously and spiritually, oh my god, a god,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then that's how it would filter through the culture.
Yeah.
So I don't even necessarily, when I watch that stuff, I don't think about it as aliens. I think about it as like folklore. Like
Yeah.
it's not that people believed in fairies and vampires and shit in the old
Mm-hmm.
days and we don't believe them now because we know better.
Mm-hmm.
People believed in real things that they experienced and encountered and interpreted in different ways.
Yeah.
So, is it possible that we had an encounter with intelligent life from elsewhere in the universe? Sure,
Mm-hmm.
but they wouldn't have called them aliens, so we wouldn't know.
Yeah, yeah. They definitely I always think about that when you look back at like Egyptian gods.
Hmm.
And especially like the way that things were depicted. I think it's in Ancient Aliens. I haven't watched that in so long. I need to go back and watch it before I redo this. But like there are images that they're depicting, like, and then the way that they talk about their gods, it's like, how do we know that that's not what they're talking about?
Hmm.
And it's like, oh, those aliens that we think of as aliens are their gods, and it's like, oh, the one of like the god of water, like,
Hmm.
could have helped them find another system or way to bring water to them. Like, it just makes you thinking, like, makes your brain go crazy as to like, wait, we interpret, when you see it throughout history, like crazy, like
Hmm.
people interpret things completely different ways. People are going to interpret things different, like 20, 50, 60 years down the line than we do now,
Hmm.
especially with technology. Like, I don't know, I could get on a soapbox about that, but I will ask the next question. Some say that ancient structures like pyramids and Stonehenge could have been built using technologies that we can't explain today. Do you think that ancient alien contact could have been the connection to what is being hidden at Area 51?
Hmm. Okay. I mean, this is kind of related to like, yeah, they could be made with technologies we don't understand. That doesn't mean
Mm-hmm.
those are alien technologies. It could be that ancient people are smart
Yeah,
and they knew
yeah,
what they were doing.
yeah.
Or they had access to resources that like we don't anymore, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like all those possibilities are on the table. I'm more inclined to believe that Area 51 is about testing technologies than it is
Mhm.
about like studying the biologics or like
Mhm.
talking with an alien dude who's there to consult.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because really if like I think about my assumptions about like what the government would do if they came in contact with this technology, they would obviously turn it into a weapon. And it would
Mhm.
obviously be super secretive, not necessarily because they don't want the population to know about it, but they don't want other countries to know about it.
Mhm.
Because if they've got a super secret stealth plane that defies the laws of physics,
Yeah.
that's going to win all the wars.
Mhm.
So the most likely scenario in Area 51 is that that's happening there.
Mhm.
Whether it's like they're looking at debris from UFOs or ancient technologies, or they're making their own stuff up. Like maybe
Mhm.
they're just doing a bunch of like really high tech, like new world, defy the laws of physics, like kind of thing. I know time travel isn't real because I've read Stephen Hawking. I wish it were. That would be great. That would solve the ancient aliens question.
Yeah.
Um, but like they did develop like really weird looking stealth planes in like the
Mhm.
80s, and
Yeah.
people saw them and they were like, oh my god, that's a UFO, that's an alien.
Mhm.
And the government was like, ha ha ha,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
actually our super secret spy plane. So like yeah, I think it's more likely that they are looking at technologies.
Mhm.
Are they alien technologies? That goes back to the Fermi paradox. Like if they
Yeah.
are, they're going to use it for practical war applications, not
Mhm.
to necessarily like learn about another planet or culture or life.
Yeah, yeah. No, for sure. I guess this is a perfect segue then, but government secrets around Area 51, why do you think that the government keeps everything about UFOs and extraterrestrial topics so secretive? Is it necessarily to protect national security, or is it to keep us or other countries from discovering something bigger?
Hmm. Okay, I just had a thought, and I worry that this is too much of like a left turn.
Mm-hmm.
You can edit it out, whatever.
Yeah.
So my best friend actually just not just a year ago finished his dissertation on like Cold War um US government like secrecy.
Yeah.
And like basically there's this huge shift from the 1950s to the 1970s and 80s
Mm-hmm.
where in the 1950s, the government was like, okay, we're going to be fully transparent with you. If the bomb happens, this is what you do. This is where you go. This is what it looks like. This is how you
Mm-hmm.
prepare. And there were like manuals and like pamphlets that they would send out to be like, this is how you protect your family.
Yeah.
And so it was very, very transparent and it was kind of like, we're going to cooperate with the general population because they're the country. That's where the country is located.
Yeah.
It's in the people. And then during the Cold War, everything changed and they were like, actually, where the government is located, where the United States of America is located, is the people in power. And so we have to protect the people in power. And in that framework, the general population is actually kind of a risk because if we give them information, if we're transparent with them about all of our plans, they could tell our enemies just because they
Mm-hmm.
don't know it's a secret and they can't keep a secret.
Yeah, yeah.
So instead, it like all of the secrecy stuff started happening then to
Mm-hmm.
like protect the core of the country, which was like the president and the designated survivor and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's where you get into like secret bunkers,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to like public bunkers.
Yeah.
So it occurs to me that all the Area 51 stuff is like around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And so this like secrecy thing about like let's protect our war machine from the general population kind of sees the general population as like the threat,
Mm-hmm.
not the threat of like the Storm Area 51
Yeah, but like the
trend.
threat of it's gonna get out.
It's going to get out. They're going to give
Yeah.
the secrets to North Korea, and then we're
Yeah.
not going to have a one up on them.
Yeah.
So like I think that probably is still very much in the
Mm-hmm.
policies of the government. The cynical side of me is also like the government's not actually that smart. They're not actually that good at keeping secrets. So like could they keep aliens or
Mm-hmm.
alien technology a secret for like multiple decades? I'm skeptical of that
Yeah,
one.
yeah. I was actually gonna ask this later on, but with this, there is like you know how every conspiracy theory is technically like tied to other conspiracy theories, like
Yes.
they all it's like a giant web, and then everything interwebs like into itself, and it's like, oh no, this one's connected to this is connected to this. So it is theorized that the Kennedy assassination is connected to aliens,
Oh.
because I think it was Nixon before Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, Nixon, Ford.
yeah,
Yeah.
they were in charge of Area 51 when it first boomed, and Area 51 is like perceived to be, in this theory, that like aliens are kidnapping people to then do like conspiracy, like testing, all of that kind of stuff on them at Area 51. We
Mm-hmm.
allow like aliens, the government allows aliens to have that area and work alongside us in order to study us. It's kind of like a handoff. Like they can study us and understand our
Yeah.
species for us to then study their equipment and like
Very
understand
diplomatic.
their, yeah. So that is then interconnected with Kennedy coming in. Kennedy gets filled in as president with all of the national secrets, what he needs to keep, all of that. He didn't want to keep it from the national public. He wanted to share it and be like, this is wrong. We shouldn't do this. We should not be stealing people and like allowing this to happen just so that we can get a hand up on technologies. So then that is connected to why it's an inside job from the CIA to have him assassinated.
Yeah.
So it's like
to protect the secret.
To protect, yes, because the CIA, in a sense, is like its own agency, but is like separate from the government, but it isn't separate from the government. Like it has its own things, but it's not. And so
Mm-hmm.
it was like thought that they are protecting the government's secrets. They're kind of like the bodyguard to the government.
The
And
CIA
then,
does have a really shady history.
yes, it does if you look into it. And so it's like, oh,
and
well,
not
that
shady
kind
like
of
ooh, cool spy stuff
mm-mm.
like all the TV shows. Shady, like
Yeah.
slimy, kind of.
Mhm.
Like the way that
Yeah.
they got their funding in the early years was like they just fully siphoned it from other departments. They were like,
Yep.
we're gonna make us a thing.
Yeah. They're still like, I mean, I have to like repost stuff on like TikTok and Instagram and all of that, and there's still videos coming out that like people don't completely understand the budget of the CIA and FBI. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's, I don't know, it's just that is how everything is interconnected. And then like you saying that the government secrets, it's like that was all during that time. Mm-hmm. And then also you can connect like the moon landing. That
Yep.
was during that time.
Yep.
Government secrets, was it real? Was it fake? Was it not? Like
it all ties back to the Cold War, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because really that's like the thing that motivates all of this, right?
Yeah.
If we're studying alien technology, it's so we can fight the Russians
Mm-hmm.
before they fight us.
Yeah.
And if like we have a secret plan to do that, we have to protect it from the general public because the Russians have infiltrated.
Mm-hmm.
They've got all these sleeper agents and everything.
Yeah.
Another conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
And if the president like wants a diplomatic solution, oh no, now the CIA is involved. They've got their own plans going on.
Mm-hmm.
If like diplomacy is going to get in the way of like winning the Cold War,
Yeah.
that's also a threat. So
I mean,
like,
you can even think about when they were in Cuba, like
mm-hmm.
what the CIA did when like the missile crisis in Cuba. Like it all connects. It all connects. I'm saying it, and I will say it time and time again. It all connects. I told Ella my last podcast is going to be a giant board, and I'm gonna literally string.
You gotta use red
yes, I'm gonna red string all of the theories together and explain it and be like, this is what we're living in. Oh my goodness. But okay, next question. Shows like Ancient Aliens and movies about Area 51 have shaped how we see the unknown. Do you think people are drawn to these stories even if they sound... Why do you think people are drawn to these stories even if they sound unbelievable?
Ooh, I think, okay. I said before, it's not fun to say like, no, aliens don't exist. That's irrational. Like, it's not fun, but it's also not really useful because even in the misinformation class that I taught last semester, like we learned that when you correct someone and say like, no, you're wrong, like Taylor Swift didn't turn down the Super Bowl because of, you know, her footage, funding, whatever.
Yeah.
They're just gonna double down and say, no, I found a source that says that. I'll find another source. I'll prove it by connecting all of these weird red strings to all of her music lyrics and everything else. Yeah. And then that's how we get into QAnon. Like, there's not a pipeline from Swiftie talk to QAnon, but they do very similar practices. Like, coming up with your own evidence and your own logic, and that's how like misinformation as well as conspiracies get so much traction. And so for me, as like a media scholar. It's not like, how do we prove this is wrong? How do we correct people? Sometimes, yeah, it can lead to some negative societal outcomes.
Yeah.
But I kind of look at it more like folklore. Like, again, it's not that it's right or wrong, they exist or they don't exist. It's like people are making meaning out of this, and they're doing it in interesting ways because the human brain works these ways, and people work with each other to construct meaning and to create cultures and subcultures and to speak back to the government that they don't trust. And like, there has to be room for that. We have to take that seriously. So I think there are lots of reasons that people get into conspiracy theories. For me, it was the History Channel. Blame them. I give them credit. I don't know, whatever. But like, it's what you do with that and what community gets constructed around it. I'm not necessarily like a Swiftie conspiracy theorist, but if you think I haven't been like Googling Hamlet or like the portrait of Ophelia or the person who posed for it and died in the bathtub, like all that stuff is just fun. It's fun to consider. And then you like align yourself with someone else in that string of thought. And again, I think that's kind of what like the human brain was made for, and it's also what our technologies are made for. So I think that's why people do it. It's also why I think like we're gonna keep doing it. There's no way to disprove this. There's no way to necessarily like officially prove it either. In some way, it might be a letdown if it does get proved, because then like you don't have red strings to connect anymore. You don't
there's no fun behind it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I pointing out what you said earlier with the like probability. For me, I feel like when you've had classes with me, I'm a very logical thinker. Like I have to see fact in front of me in order to believe something. But with it comes to conspiracy theories, obviously, like I'm not going to be like, okay, yeah, no, I 100% believe that because I don't have the fact in front of me to be like, yes, this is true. But I think of that probability factor of like, okay, this connecting to this has this evidence, this evidence, this evidence, this evidence, but it's not proven. But with all of this tied together, there's a higher probability that this is true. And I think that that's how a lot of people think about it that aren't extremist. I should say that. People who are extremist and are like, oh no, like the Bible says this and this connects to this song from this way past century to now this Taylor Swift song. Like that's a little bit crazy to me. That's how your brain thinks, okay, cool, I'll listen to it. But like I'm very much so like, okay, much like you said earlier, like it has to have some sort of probability of like, okay, it has this evidence, this kind of lines up in order to get to that point.
And that's like building arguments is fun, and like picking apart arguments is fun, and that's the whole process of this. I use ancient aliens and public speaking to teach like fallacies and how do you put together an argument and how do you evaluate an argument, because even if you don't believe in aliens, you can look at that worksheet and be like, this is stupid. But at the same time, you're like, but I see how the logic works. I don't agree with it, but I see how the logic works. And you can compare that to like politics. Why do you vote for someone? Is this a good person or not? Like, should we support this thing or not, this policy or not? Like, it's all the same logics. I'm not trying to say that, you know, democracy is a conspiracy, just to clarify. But like understanding how the arguments work and understanding like how quickly people can get sucked into a fallacy and not recognize it. That's the really important thing.
The false logic is very easily over top of people's heads when they don't pay attention the right way. So my final question is the big one. Do you think that truth about aliens, both ancient and modern, is already known by a few people in power, or do you think that there is really no one that knows about this and it's really just a big hoax that we all talk about?
I think some people have more information than the rest of us. I think if more than one person knew for certain that aliens exist in the way that, like, I don't know, confirms our conspiracy theories or like matches our imagination, we would all know it. I don't think the government is actually capable of keeping like long-term secrets like that. They can keep military secrets, they can keep like, you know, the bad things that they've done. They can like cover that up or whatever. I don't think keeping like an ongoing secret about a phenomenon that exists in the universe, I don't think they have the skill set. So no, I don't think that someone in power is like keeping a secret book in the Library of Congress with all of the codes. I do think that certain people have access to information that the rest of us don't. And that might if it came to light, change like the way that we do the conspiracy about aliens. I don't think it would prove it one way or the other,
Yeah.
but I think it might like open up new conspiracies, close down some of the other ones, shift it in a different direction.
Yeah.
So I'm always on the lookout for new information because, again, that's part of the fun. That's part of the process.
Yeah. Well, when we get the unclassified documents, I will be back at Longwood to
Thank
come
you.
read them with
Thank
you.
you. Please come to a guest lecture.
Oh, yes. Oh, my goodness. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.